So when he was back in Europe, he enjoyed quite a bit of success. Is that correct? And then
Yeah.
when he moved to England, he had trouble finding this success.
Yeah.
But
Yes. You could say that, as I said, at the outset of World War II, he had become an established artist, both in the Hanover art scene, but in the wider European avant-garde. He'd had shows with an important gallery called Der Sturm, and knew many of the key artists who were movers and shakers in Dadaism, as I've said. And he also had a career doing some quite innovative graphic design. So he was well established, showing regularly, involved in all the right networks, traveling regularly to Paris and to the Netherlands to meet with people like Theo van Doesburg and Arp to put on Dadaist performances or develop poetry readings, perform the Ursinata, for instance. And he was making quite a good living from the graphic design work that he was also doing. But because he'd been identified as a member of the Entartete Kunst list, his work as a graphic designer began to dry up in the 1930s. And also, after he'd left Germany, the Nazi Party sort of commandeered the properties that his family had owned. So all of his wealth and sources of income in Germany were taken away by the Nazis after he'd gone. So by the time he got to England, he had very little to draw on. He had very little resources. He wasn't able to work, and there was no income from the properties that his family had owned in Hanover. So it was really quite a tragic story of somebody who was really a member of the bourgeoisie coming to England and having to scrape a living really by painting pictures that he could sell. This was his only means of making a living. And that's why he undertook a large number of commissions, portraits, and he painted pictures, not only landscapes, but flowers and still lifes, which he would submit to the Lake Society, Artist Society exhibitions in order to win the prizes, to make a little bit of money. So it was quite a hard life, and he had very little money when he was in England and then in the Lake District. They would talk about going down to get chips for tea because it was very nutritious and filling and cheap. They'd often miss meals, and they wouldn't have enough money to buy coal to keep warm. So it was difficult. It was really difficult to survive in many ways.